Welcome to one of the POS-HC exam question videos. In this video, I'm going to cover this exam question, which comes from chapter 2011 exam paper, and it's question 25, and it's worth 4 marks. So what I'll do in seconds, I read the actual question. Once I read the question, you get about 5 seconds to pause the video. Once you pause the video, attempt the question, and then press play when you're ready. I'll go over the marking guidelines, and also a sample answer in terms of how to answer that to get full marks. As the question is, a fisherman pricked his finger on a fish hook. Soon after, he noticed that the injury finger was red and swollen. Sometime later, he felt a throbbing sensation in his arm. His doctor prescribed a course of antibiotics. A. Identify 2 defense adaptations used by the body in response to injury. And B. Identify the role of antibiotics in the management of his injury. Both of these are worth 2 marks. So when you're ready, pause the video and attempt the question. Welcome back. Alright, so for the first one, it's quite straightforward. We have to identify 2 defense adaptations used by the body in response to the injury. So remember, it's in the response to the injury. That's why there are some things, for example, if you say skin, that's wrong because the skin isn't there in response to injury. It's there to prevent an injury from occurring, right? But this is basically once the skin has been broken. So second or third line defense, these are the ones you should have mentioned. So name correctly 2 possible defense adaptations, and name correctly 1 possible defense adaptation to get 1 mark, and 2 to get 2 marks. So you could have said things like phagocytosis, inflammation response, you could have said programmed cell death, or the lymphatic system, the specialized immune response. These would be all examples of that would give you 2 marks out of 2 if you name 2 of them, right? So what I wrote is, again, you would have just had to put 2 down. So phagocytosis, inflammation response, that would be enough to get 2 marks. Or programmed cell death, or again, as I mentioned, the specialized immune response, which is your lymphatic system. So this would have been enough to get you 2 marks, just 2 of those. The next one was identify the role of antibiotics in the management of this injury. And for this, obviously, identify means you just need to recognize. And here you should have said, first of all, that this infection, right? So what you should have said is that the infection itself could have been bacterial, right? So a bacterial infection, it could have been one. It might have been virus or protozoa, but it could also have been bacteria. In that case, we take antibiotics to kill that bacteria infection, if it isn't a bacterial infection. Because to get 2 out of 2 marks, what you should have been done is, identify that it could have been a bacterial infection, and that if you then take antibiotics, that would kill that bacterial infection. Right, so to get full marks, this is a sample answer to what I wrote. The infection could have been a bacterial infection, just stating that it could have been one. And then to treat this infection, antibiotics can be used as antibiotics target and kill bacteria, thereby help treat this infection. Right? So that's just basically saying it could have been bacterial, and if you take antibiotics, that would kill that bacteria infection and thereby help treat the problem. And where did these 2 dot points come from? Alright, so the first one came from the bottom one, this one. So identify defense adaptations including the inflammation response, phagocytosis, and programmed cell death. And then there's another one which talks about the lymphatic response, the third line of defense. And the top one, again, the top one is not actually part of this because it's the skin, the mucous membrane, the cilia, the chemical barriers. This is the first line. This is what helps you prevent them from getting in, and not what actually tries to fight it once it's infected you. Right? So if you say any of these, you're wrong. If you say any of these, apart from the lymph system, unless you give details, you would be okay. Alright, so in this case, the next part would have come from identify the role of antibiotics in the management of injury. You can see that's the actual dot point, so that's this dot point. But hopefully that was useful in terms of the actual video.